Today's episode is brought to you by Archon Mounts. For those of you that are content creators and you want the best mounting solutions for your cell phones, your DSLR cameras, well, go to archon.com. Be sure to use my promo code Hawaii and you'll get 20% off your entire order. Also, all of their products come with a lifetime guarantee. So head on over to archon.com, keeping your devices within reach. Studies on human nature dictate that the mind always desires to improve upon the situation that you are in. For some, it could be mitigating anxiety symptoms, while for others, it's learning how to navigate their ADHD. Treatment for getting over the hurdles of one's mental health issues can seem non-existent. However, our friends at National Center of Counseling Services and Training, their mission is to connect their clients with a therapist that can best assist them with their mental health concerns and provide them with treatment. They're licensed counselors. They will walk alongside you and access whatever fear, trauma, or grief that you face. After all, knowing the source of your illness, whether it is a chronic illness or acute, it is the first step in developing the tools to combat mental illness. We're blessed to partner up with Dr. Terry Lynn Kim. She was a recent guest on our podcast gLO sessions, and we're just really excited to just give you guys resources for those of you that may be going through something tough and you just don't know who to turn to, who to talk to. Go to nationalcentercst.com. Be sure in the contact form to let them know that you heard about them through this podcast.
To whoever may need this nugget of encouragement, things will be alright, so quit your worrying. I get it, the odds can stack back against the wall, but if you consider it such, no, you'll stand firm.
We are live. Thank you for joining us, fam. We are live. We are live on X, of course, YouTube, Twitch, Kick, and Rumble. And as always, our disclaimer, if it's really good, we're going to put it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But for now, we're live. If you don't know who I am, my name is Brother Greg, aka the real gLO. Some people call me gLO. Only people on X call me that. Everybody else calls me Greg or Brother Greg. If you're brand new, first of all, thank you for being here. If you're on a replay, thank you for taking the time to watch on replay. We always appreciate people that come and watch us when they just wake up, and because we understand time zones. So thank you for that. We do appreciate you. Also, if you're brand new and you don't know what this is, but you're enjoying it, do me a favor on all the other outlets that you have the subscription possibilities. Like, share, subscribe. Appreciate it. I'm trying to manage my gas bubbles that are in my throat. I'm trying to talk. You ever try to manage those burp things and you try to finish your sentence and that bubble's coming up? Oh, okay, I gotta get it in there. So, what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about let me sure my wife's mic is on. We're talking about what it takes to be a real man. And so if that interests you, stay tuned. We're going to get two perspectives. Obviously, a guy's perspective, my wife of 25 years. We've been married for 20, but been together for 25. So we could have been married for 25, but it took a few years for us to. It takes a long time to tie a knot, apparently. It takes some people, some people it takes a little bit longer. And she said the other day, she goes like, what took so long? I said, I don't know, honey. You had so many toys. You was buying all your toys and just living it up. I don't know what happened. What had happened was, but yeah, we're gonna talk about that. There's a couple of things that we're gonna talk about, current events, and I just saw it right before I went live. I just saw a couple of comments on my social media feeds, and we'll talk about those things as well. I find it interesting that we are so sometimes driven by headlines before we get anything done. It's a trap. It's a trap. I didn't wear the shirt today, but sometimes we're driven by things that take our time, take our attention away from what's important. Number one killer, obviously, is social media. I think today, yeah, social media. Then of course, just your mobile devices. It can be games. And I think a lot of that is, for me personally, it's a trap. I keep saying it's a trap.
It is a trap.
It's a trap. It's a trap. For anybody that does not know that reference, it's Admiral Akbar. That's his name. Hey Google, who was Admiral Akbar?
According to Star Wars Database, a
veteran commander, Akbar led the defense of his homeworld, Mon Cala, during the Clone Wars and then masterminded the rebel attack on the second Death Star at the Battle of Endor. Akbar realized the rebels had been drawn into
Okay,
the
Google,
trap of
stop.
Endor.
Yeah, I guess so. I got it right. So Admiral Akbar, he was so the goldfish. I think he had the big eyes, and his famous saying was, "It's a trap. It's a trap." So, anyways, social media, cell phones. That's one of the temptations when we get up every morning. That's one of the things that we get caught up in. And so, anyways, I'm gonna bring my wife up in just a second. I think on Twitter, I think they're starting to release some of the sanctions on me. I'm not sure if that's the right word. Uh, but I got flagged by either a person or an AI something. So it's all good though, because we put this content out there regardless of viewership numbers, only because we understand that, like, for me and my wife, when we do these things, it's heartfelt, number one, and we share a heart from a place of, Lord, is this what you want us to talk about today? And we always lead in with prayer. We always lead in with, okay, Lord, what do you want to show me today to deliver? And so I'm blessed that we can do this on other socials, not just one platform, because we've all been there where one platform works out, one doesn't. So, and we focus on the where the momentum is, obviously, and then we also honor other people that are, they'll never leave their platforms, whether it's YouTube, Twitch, Kick, Rumble, whatever platform, Facebook. We forgot about Facebook, Instagram. We are not live on Instagram or Facebook today, only because I typically reserve that for certain things, like podcasts with certain guests. I really don't know why I could. So that's that. In the area of news, you want to come up, honey? Or you want to wait for a minute? That's a long thought process.
Hold on, I'm trying to do something.
I think my wife does this on purpose, because we go live. I think she does it so she can come in and make a grand entrance. But yeah. So in the area of one of the things I didn't watch the whole thing, but I watched a portion of, I think, Charlie Kirk. And he was, I think it was, I'm pretty sure it was Joe Rogan, but he did a podcast and they were talking about how polarizing certain people's personalities can be. And they were talking about Donald Trump. And I was thinking, the way that we've crafted what it takes to be a man in our nation, it's really, and it's not just America, it's every country, obviously, but I can only speak on behalf of the United States. But the definition of what it is to be a man, there are so many different influences and so many different facets to that. Being born and raised in Hawaii, and me being Hawaiian, I think my view of what it takes to be a man is a lot different, obviously, than someone that say that they were born in like Alabama or Tennessee, where predominantly their genealogy, their ethnicity, I want to say ethnicity. Anybody that watches political news, you know where that came from. Ethnicity. That'll be you guys' homework assignment. Figure out.
Jake Quillen.
No. See, even you don't know. Do you know where that came from?
No, but that's what it reminds me of.
I'll give you a hint. So I'll give everybody a hint, my wife included. There was a some kind of hearing, I want to say in the Senate, and these two people were having a discussion. I won't say it because it'll give it away. But the person was asking this other person, "What is your ethnicity? Don't you don't you agree with your ethnicity?" I'm thinking, I'm pretty sure it's spelled ethnicity, not ethnicity. But anyways, so yeah. What was I talking about? So with my see, I want to say it. My ethnicity, because of having a Hawaiian heritage, my mom Hawaiian Chinese, my dad Filipino, and then growing up in Hawaii where everybody is mixed. Like it's extremely rare on all ethnicities in Hawaii to have someone that's 100% this. Super rare, and I'm sure it's rare everywhere else. But like Hawaii, we don't separate you by color because everybody's brown. Everybody's a shade of brown, right? So we don't separate you by white, black, yellow, red, or colors, right? So, anyways, going back to the whole idea of my perception of what it is to be a man. Like even in Hawaii, you've got your Portuguese, you get your Hawaiian, Japanese, you get your Chinese, Hawaiian. If you're on a big island where I'm from and you're Hawaiian, like old school, a lot of your genealogy, your influences and experiences as a man, depending on what part of the island, you'll have like what we call like generational farming. If you're, let's talk about Japanese, generationally speaking, you're probably going to be a doctor or a dentist. You know, Chinese, same thing. It's changing now, of course. I think a lot of it with popular culture and also with just influences on a global scale. We can travel the world. Like right now, I have to humble myself and think, wow, there's people that actually watch us in different countries. And that's really humbling. It's really cool. And so going back to the whole idea of influence and the influences of a guy and a man and what it takes. You know, I'm blessed because my dad, honey, you hitting the mic.
I know.
My dad, he was very very involved. He was always around. So my influences on what it took to be a man was my dad. And if anybody's seen the podcast with my dad, and you look at the difference in his body, like he doesn't have fingers. But for me as a kid, I never saw my dad as someone that was handicapped. I never saw him as, you know, I never saw him that way. So, and then I look at today, when we look at today, there's a push. There is I hate to sound political, but there is this train coming that is loaded with just this idea of what it's gonna look like. And I am not taking a side here, but it's almost like, no, I am a man and this is what it's gonna look like. This is what it takes. And that's just my perception, right? A perfect example. I think Rachel Levine is I think that's the, let me look it up. And then we've got Bobby Kennedy Jr., right? Rachel. I don't even know why we call that person Rachel. I really don't know. Maybe that's the legal name. So Rachel Levine is the I don't even know the job title. Secretary of Health. Okay, so Secretary of Health. And you look at this person and you know it's a dude. I'm sorry. I mean, just it's a guy. And I mean, no disrespect, but that's a dude. But yet when you read anything about this person, the first thing they put out there is that, oh no, this is a trans person. But biologically it's a dude. I mean, there's just no, you can't walk around that politically, genderly. And so anyways, it says that she is an admiral in the United States Public Health Service Commission Corps. So let's look at so Rachel Levine was in pediatrics and psychiatry. Interesting. Very interesting. We'll talk about that when my wife comes on. So anyways, going back to this whole idea of what it is to be a man. And so we have RFK Jr., Bobby Kennedy Jr. coming in to take that position and lead our nation governmentally in that area of, you know, the health of our nation. Two radically different I'm just thinking how crazy that is. How radically different those two are. Bobby Kennedy is in his, I think he's in his 60s, and he is like super buff, eats healthy for the most part. I mean, we all seen the McDonald's photos, so yeah, people can pick on him for that. But super healthy, um, seems to take care of his body. I'm not sure what kind of health conditions he's had, but he takes care of himself. And so, just two radically different perceptions of what a man looks like. We'll just go there. I don't know how many years he's been married, so but we'll talk about that. I really want to talk about that, and then so on that side, and we see that coming into our not just our government, but in the culture level, yeah. So, anyways, I want my wife to come on so she can talk a little bit about that. And I'm gonna go heat up my coffee, and I'll be right back. So, 3, 2.
Wait. Tell me what you wanted me to talk about. Sorry, I was trying to forget the thing on.
Honestly, I really don't care. I'm gonna heat up my coffee. Just talk about whatever you like, honey. This is not a.
Wait, but no, you just said you wanted me to talk about something, so I want you to remind me what you wanted me to talk about.
Whatever. I cannot think. I gotta get my coffee and clear my sinuses. So, mic is on. 3, 2, 1. There you go. You're hot. Your headphones wasn't on. It was.
No, but I was trying to do this thing over here.
Then just share what you're writing.
I'm not writing nothing. I was trying to put it up.
Put what up?
Put it up.
Well, read whatever he was doing.
The virtual friends.
Honey, you're working on the shirts. What?
No, I just was uploading it to the
Are we gonna share it? Is that why you was working on it?
Yeah, that's I put the sticker on. Try look. I think I put the sticker on.
Okay, but okay, I'll be back. I'll be back.
I got distracted.
You do it. Okay, it's on you.
Sorry, guys, I got distracted. Anyway, my husband was talking about how to become a man, right? And how he learned how to become a man from his dad. And I can't say that I'm a man because I am not, and I didn't learn how to become a man. But as a mother, training her sons, right, or influencing my sons, and this is how I've always seen it. So I see myself as a mother who influences my son, but also shows my son what it is to be like to be a woman, and what kind of wife that he would marry. Right. So if I'm a crazy person, guess what? My son's going to end up marrying a crazy person, which I'm not, but just saying. And, as far as my daughter goes, my husband will determine, what kind of man my daughters will should marry. And that, in my mind and my perspective of that, tells me to be intentional when I'm speaking to my sons, intentional when I'm disciplining my sons if they need to be disciplined. It's usually because of school, because I am their educator. But also in teaching my sons, right? So I've taught my sons how to wash clothes and how to sort clothes, and they take out rubbish. They learn how to clean the bathrooms. They learn how to wash dishes and put away dishes, and those kinds of things. Obviously, my younger son, he has sensory processing, so for him it's a little bit more of a challenge. So we work with that, right? So you work around your kids' personalities, but you also work around, their ability and their capabilities, right? And so one of the things, I was actually just going over my my business books, you take notes. I take notes in my classes, but I also go over my notes in my classes. And sometimes, you go over your notes um, to make sure that, that not just that you're doing the right thing, but you want to always refresh your memory on different things. So, one of the things that I was reading about is education. And so, one of my biggest things about um, taking my children out of school, number one, is because the Lord told us to take our kids out of the public school. And that's what He required us to do. And so that's what we did. But number two, I understand from a cultural perspective, if you've grown up in Hawaii and if you are Hawaiian, you understand, or you should understand, the influences of what education has done to our people and what it hasn't done for our people, right? So growing up, Olelo Hawaii, or the Hawaiian language, was not a prominent thing in schools. But as I came through high school, it became an elective. But I already knew how to speak Hawaiian because of my family dynamic, right? Because we are Hawaiian. My grandma would speak to me in Hawaiian. My mom would speak to me in Hawaiian. Um, my family is cultured that way. One of the things about Hawaiian culture is that in school, and there's a lot of things in school that taught us a certain way that wasn't the way of indigenous people. So if you ask a Native American, it's the same thing with them, right? When you get to indigenous things, and a lot of my questions that I would pose to my grandma, I'd ask her questions about certain things, and she's like, "What? That didn't even happen." So your educational influences, I'm not saying that public education wasn't good. It's good when it comes to like learning how to read, learning how to write, learning how to do math. But when it comes to historical facts of our nation, the nation of Hawaii, our people, it wasn't true. Not all of it was true, right? You got we call them the white man, right? So it was a white man's influences versus Hawaiian influences. And I'm not saying on either way that they're both 100% right. But what I am saying is that know where you come from. Do your own research about where you come from. A lot of Hawaii people are very educated on who we are as a people and where we come from. And if you come to Hawaii or you've grown up in Hawaii, you understand the cultural values. So we have cultural values like I am Hawaiian, Puerto Rican, Maori, Samoan, Tongan. I think I caught it all.
Some people don't even understand that when you think about it. Yeah.
So I'm a lot of the Polynesian. I'm a lot of Polynesian, basically. But I grew up understanding and knowing my Polynesian culture. I grew up knowing my Puerto Rican culture. I also grew up, knowing other people's cultures because you got other people influences, and everybody is. I'm not saying proud in a wrong way, but everybody's proud of who they are and where they come from. So my husband is Hawaiian, Chinese, Filipino, and then
until further notice.
I have friends who just are pure Filipino. I have friends who are just pure Portuguese. I have friends who are Portuguese, Hawaiian. Like there's so much dynamic in it, but we are still a cultured people, and we're proud of where we come from, and we acknowledge that within us. And I think that's what makes us a little bit different, that we're okay with who we are. And so like I said about the educational experiences, you don't want those things to influence you in such a way that you don't know who you are. Like I said, do you due diligence and do your own research of where you come from, your people, your where they come from. But I want to say this. So one of the things that I had picked up on was I and I thought about it because the educational experiences focuses on what you're doing wrong. So I thought about that and I was like, wow, that's so true. And it, even as a people, like I said, how they taught Hawaiian history, you know, they taught us that we were enslaved. And then in your mind, you're still an enslaved people, but we are free. So I'm saying that to say that this is the stuff that we have to relearn. That's why I said go back and learn your culture, because the emphasis is always on the things that you've gotten wrong or that you've done wrong. And I'm looking at my kids too and doing homeschool, and I'm like, huh, you grow up in that environment, right? Of focusing on the things that you've done wrong, and um you don't focus on the things that you've done right in school. So a lot of times, and I thought about it, a lot of times, like I would get upset if I was always smart as a kid, right? But I would get upset if I got a bad grade. And so my personality is like, no, I don't think so. So I would go back and I would study and I would do all these things so that my next test I would get a good grade, right? But not everybody is built that way, right? And so those things can get people down and make them feel stupid and make them feel dumb and make them feel like, oh, I'm not worthy to get ahead because I'm not built to be smart. Doesn't focus on the things that you are already doing well and help build those strengths. And then it doesn't teach you that in your weaknesses you can learn to be better. You can learn to get better. It may take you a while, but you'll get there, right? And that's not what public education teaches you. And so my focus on that has helped me to change the way that I teach my kids. And it's focusing on solutions to fix the weaknesses. And I'm not meaning that you got to go over there like, you're too weak over here and you got to come over there and fix it. What that means is just that that I'd go to the weaknesses and I would do things to strengthen those areas of my life. And in the same way, and that's how, not just how I'm looking at education, and I was talking about education, but also culturally, how am I raising my boys for them to see what kind of woman that I want my boys to marry. Am I the ones that focuses on their weaknesses, because that will also determine something that they're used to, right? If I am the biggest influence in their life and they're used to me, and they find a girlfriend who's narcissistic, if I became narcissistic, right? And like, oh, okay, I'm familiar with that, I can handle that. But that doesn't help my sons out, right? Because when you get married, right, your role as a spouse is to help each other become better. Well, if you have a wife who's always constantly negative all the time, right, that's kind of a direct reflection of me if I was the one who was very negative to them all the time. So I'm learning to shift the way that I think, in the way that I've been taught in my educational experiences, so that my influence on my sons would be a positive influence on my sons. And not just that, but that not just for them when they find a wife, right? The Bible says he who finds a wife finds a good thing, but to find a good wife, not just about that, but that I would strengthen my sons so that they would be confident in walking, and just being who they are, right? They're okay. I'm okay if they're quiet. I'm okay if they're loud, although the talking too much drives me crazy. But, that's just who they are. I'm not going to say, you're driving me crazy, just shut your mouth. If I'm constantly telling my sons that all the time, then it doesn't give them confidence to be a good speaker if that's what they're called to do. If they're a great speaker, like my husband's a great speaker, if they're called to be a great speaker, if I'm constantly being negative toward the very thing that, you know, they have great influence in, it's not going to build their confidence. And then later on, here you go, my son's got to go to therapy. Right? My son's going to need more help in getting to the place that it needed to be, when I, as a parent who should have been the biggest influence on them, is not helping them to develop that. So now they got to go, when they become an adult, they have to go through all these steps to help develop themselves, when I could have helped them.
Speaking of, I think therapy is underrated and overrated at the same time. That's what I think. I think it's, to take that and go on a side tangent, it seems like therapy is like the cool thing to do. Like, it's cool even for a therapist to say they have a therapist. It's a cultural, it's a weird cultural, I don't want to say phenomenon, but it's happening where people say, "Oh yeah, I got a therapist. I got to go therapy on Wednesday." But I'm like, yeah, we're talking about men. We're talking about, you know, boys, and like I grew up, you know, different, right? My dad was always there. He wasn't really an encourager, but I knew he was always there. He wasn't abusive. How I joke about getting hit and stuff, but he was never abusive. He was always there. But he wasn't a hugger either, right? So I didn't have that, like, so I didn't have, like, I couldn't like open the door and go get a hug. Like, you know, Gideon would come in here and he would come and give us a hug, and just a hug. So just those little things. And we're talking about people talking about, oh yeah, I got to go to therapy. I got a therapist. That's such a weird thing for me to hear, especially now. Like, it's just weird. Like, part of it, I think, is not, you know, with our children, validating them often, right? And even like, we look at people today, social media is fun. It's a great way to check the temperature of what, and not to judge people, right? We don't judge, but you get a good indicator of what someone is like by the things that they post on Twitter, on X, on any social platform, right? Like, for you, you don't post selfies on Instagram, right? And there are some of our friends and good friends of ours, they post a selfie every day or every other day.
I know. I don't even know if I actually ever posted a picture of me.
If you do, you post a picture to show off your makeup or your eyelashes or something that you did, or you know. Mm-hmm. But it's never like you take a selfie and go, and then you, in the comments, you go, whenever life is hard, just remember that mountain you're climbing, at some point there will be snow at the top, and when you get to the snow, the air will be wonderful and just refreshing.
You can make some shave ice.
When really what they're saying is, look at my boobs. Right, that's really what they're saying. Look at my chichis, or look at the way I look. Look at my beautiful face. And then, so I don't know how. That's just kind of.
Well, somebody asked me a question yesterday, and I was like, they said, "Oh, have you had any issues with comparison, like peer-to-peer comparison? Because, you know, a lot of women struggle with that." And I said, "Oh, no. I've never had that problem." And I said, I think I've never had that problem because I've just been hardwired that way. You know, comparison was not something that I've ever struggled with as far as wanting to be like somebody else. I've always wanted to be like me. I didn't want to be like, I never wanted to be like somebody else in how they dress. Or so my example was when we were in school. Okay, when we were in school, and you know how everybody goes to public school or whatever, and you know, the first week of school, first 2 weeks of school, everybody get brand new clothes, right? And so I never wore my brand new clothes. I just waited for like the third week of school when everybody stopped wearing all their brand new clothes, and then I would wear my clothes. And it wasn't for attention. It's just I hated following the crowd.
Okay, let's pause. because those were the days. Let me see what I wore. So in 1980, let's pick a year, 1984. Okay, that's when Michael Jackson,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, you know, all the slow down, Mike, slow down. All the Filipino guys, they all had the red pants with the, you know, they had the little zipper on the knees where you can expose a black strip, and that was from Thriller. I don't know if you remember. Do you remember Thriller? Michael Jackson's Thriller.
Yeah, that was my favorite video.
Okay, so remember he had red pants.
Yeah,
Red shirt, red jacket.
red jacket.
A black shirt and red jacket. So that was our outfits. And then we would go to Tom McCann and get those shoes that had, it's like mesh shoes. So if you wear white socks, the white socks show through the black mesh. All the pop and lock guys, that's what they all wore. Either they wore that or they were the kung fu shoes, the kung fu master, because you could slide your feet and it was quiet. You cannot wear Sunday shoes. You had to wear the ones with the felt bottoms, because when you do the moonwalk, it wouldn't make a scraping sound on the gym floor and so all the guys had those. So that was kind of like the upper echelon. If you had that, you was part of that upper echelon.
That's funny.
And that's just that crowd. We're not talking about the other, because it's different, right? In your school, same thing. Different ethnicity. The different ethnicities, they all dress a little bit different, right? Japanese, Chinese. The Chinese was all, and I'm Chinese, so I can pick on them. But a lot of my Chinese friends.
If we really had so much Japanese.
Well, especially in Alva Beach, I'm sure not a lot, but like in Hawaii, like you'd have pockets, right? And so a lot of them were working families. So
We had a lot of Filipino people, a lot of Hawaiian people, a lot of Filipino people.
so that
Very few
that
Japanese
perception
people.
of so to be fair,
Hey, Wayland.
hey, how's it? Oh, hi everybody. But to be fair, and Waylon, invitation's always open. You know it is. I sent it in DMs. But to be fair, the way you was brought up, if there was anything bullying in nature, just lick them, right? Just lick them. Yeah, you okay? You think you bad?
Well, okay, so where I grew up, it was, you know, our neighbors also all looked out for each other. So if you climb in one tree, you're not supposed to be up the tree. You know what my neighbor telling you? I gonna tell your father when he come home. Fast you get out of the tree. Cause guess what? Your neighbor is at your door when your dad come home. And then guess who's getting lickings? But you know, our neighbors, you know, everybody in the community always looked out for each other. Like even my neighbor down the road, if I was having an asthma attack and my parents weren't home because they were working, and you know, several of the people that lived in our neighborhood were stay-at-home moms. They would come over and they would actually call the ambulance, and they would sit there and wait. And then, you know, if the ambulance came to pick me up, they would take my siblings with them. And then, you know, so that my siblings wasn't home by themselves. And then they would wait for my parents to come home. But that's how it was, you know, in the community. It also was, if a kid going to act up, yeah, and like you said, like bully like attitude, guess what happens when they come to the office? Like the parent of that kid who got bullied would say, "Where's your father? Where's your mother?"
And that's how they handled it.
Yeah.
Now it's different. It's like, for lack of a better word, we're soft. So if you know, let's say our kids went to public school today, they get bullied or punched, beat up. Like, even though my dad didn't really tell us to fight, but he did teach us how to defend ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But my dad would say, you know, go back and go. My dad would say, go and handle it.
Your mom, your mom, she's like, I didn't realize your mom was standing there, but I was telling Jasmine the same thing because this girl would always pick on Jazz, and I said, she pushed you again, push her back, and she just looked at me. I said, no, I'm telling you, she pushed you again, push her back, and make sure you shove her down. And I'd say, if you gotta fight her, then fight her. Okay, I'm okay with it. Just don't tell your teacher them what I said. And she just like, and your mom was like, "And what are you doing?" I said, "No, you gotta understand that when you get bullies, if you don't stand up for yourself, they're just gonna keep doing the same
It
thing."
never ends.
I said, "But that's okay. When we get called to the office, we're gonna handle this." Your mom was like, "No, you can't be doing that kind of stuff." I was like, "No, trust me."
That was a teacher and my mom.
Yeah.
That wasn't the mom that grew up. My mom was not like that at all, and I didn't even know this till I was an adult. Hearing all the stories of Uncle Pat sharing. So it's funny you tell me that story about my mom, because according to my Uncle Pat and Auntie Linda, my mom wasn't exactly what do you call that? A model student. My mom could handle herself. There's this story, and I want to get back to talking about the guys, but I think the girls are fitting. But my mom, there's a story. My mom, I can't remember all the details, so I'll try to. But basically, there was a confrontation at school. This is in grade school, mind you. My mom was probably like middle school, maybe younger. No, I think it was middle school, and there was a confrontation. Remember this story? And so whatever happened, she met the guy by the bridge. Was a guy.
Oh yeah,
And
with
she-
Uncle Pat.
And she went liquor. I think Uncle Pat came later.
No, Uncle Pat was there. He just wanted to make sure that
She was okay.
yeah,
And he let her do what.
yeah.
So that's how they handle confrontations back in the day.
Mhm.
My mom went scrap with one guy and gave the guy lickets. And of course, my Uncle Pat, who's the oldest brother, he would just be there just in case things got messy. And but that's the culture. And even for me as a kid, like there was this guy on the bus. He used to always big guy, because our bus, we had elementary and intermediate. And some intermediate guys back in the day, they shouldn't have been they should have been in high school already, because they failed once or twice.
Right.
But they're bigger and they're probably already a man. One guy used to always pick on me. He used to like grab my backpack, and my brother would be like, like, "What are you doing?" And the guy and that guy, I don't think I didn't stand up to him or try to lick him or anything, because I didn't cry about it. I didn't go tell my dad. I handled it. I'm like, you know what? Part of me was like, you just wait. That's kind of how I felt. Like, okay, you just wait. Wait till you turn around or something. I don't know, throw a rock at. I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking. But I didn't cry. I wasn't mad at Bryson or I just like, you know what? Okay. Well, one day. And there's another guy, a Howley guy as a kid. Solomon, if you're still out there, just want to let you know I'm sorry. But a Howley kid named Solomon. I thought he was a lizard. Did I ever tell you this story?
No, why would you think he was a lizard?
I thought he was a lizard man, because he told me he was a lizard.
What were you, like first grade?
No, this was like fourth grade or something. I thought he was a lizard, because he told me, because I remember he always had dry skin, or I thought it was, I don't know what it was, but his skin was peanuts. I was thinking,
Probably eczema.
I was like, what's wrong with your hands, or what's wrong with your arms? And he goes, I'm a lizard. I'm like, wow. And I thought, wow.
He's a lizard.
Yeah. And so for people that don't understand context in Hawaii, so in Hawaii, where I grew up, was all local people, Hawaiian people, mix. And then you had the Howley people, which were the white people, and they were typically a little bit on a weirder side. Like, if you know Big, if you Howley, you go to Big Island, you're probably more on a hippie side, because there's no reason for Howley people to be on a Big Island. There really isn't. Back in the day, there was really, and that might sound racist, but that's just true. Like, if you're a Howley and you go to Big Island, you're gonna smoke weed, and you're gonna grow vegetables, and you're gonna be a gardener or something, right? Off grid. Oahu different. At least Howleys, they had industries for them. Like, there's nothing for Howley people on the Big Island, and this probably sounds really bad, but
Plantations. Were there plantations on the Big Island?
yeah, but not like, yeah, of course,
like Oahu.
but those are mostly family, like family take care of it. So so anyways, going back to the story, somehow we got into a fight. We were arguing about something, I remember I don't remember how I was fighting because at fourth grade, it's not like you take jujitsu or boxing. I didn't know how to. I just remember we was swinging, and I remember he hit me a couple. I don't know how. I just remember when you fight. I just remember every fight that I've been in, I was always hot. You're always hot, right? Your ears are burning, your adrenaline's pumping, and you feel pain somewhere because you got hit. Who knows? But I remember we got into a fight, and that's how we handled it. Like whatever this, I don't even know what we was fighting about. I do remember fighting, and that's why I said, Solomon, I'm looking at the camera. I apologize for. And then we were kids, but I had a lot of those little fights like that as a kid.
We would get into fights because we were sore losers. When we would play like dodgeball or sham battle or
Which are illegal today. Those are illegal in modern
well,
society.
somebody go head hunting. So head hunting is when you take the ball and you whack somebody in the face. And I am the wrongest person that you can head hunt on because I would get mad. And then once I get mad, I would take the ball and either beat it back in your face or we end up scrapping because I'm so mad because he hit me with the ball.
You could drive me crazy with the microphone. The well, most of my fights it wasn't about sore losing. It's just that somebody acting stupid.
Right. Yeah, I don't think we ever really. I mean, we had only a very few howlies in our school. Like they were rare in our school, and I think because we were
or Ever Beach too, right?
Well, I grew up more up where our school was more up in the community. Now you got the other schools like Polka Elementary. I think they had more of the military kids that were at Iroquois Point because they were closer to that side, and where my school was further inland, and so there were a lot of local people, and a lot of Filipino people because a lot of the Filipinos in our area, a majority of them, I want to say 90% of them worked in the plantation fields. And they would have like my friend's dad would drive this truck and he would go around in the community and he would pick up all their workers and then they would drive out to Wahiwa to go work the plantation fields.
So a lot of the people, so for people that are not in Hawaii, for context, a lot of our relationships were, I don't know how you would explain it because I take it back. I have lived in the mainland. So in Hawaii, I feel like it's easier if you're born and raised there to understand what it takes to have a multiple faceted relationship with different types of people because we're all different and similar. But when you get someone that is quote unquote a haole person or a white person to come in, it's harder for them because they don't relate on the ethnic level. Like they don't relate to, like for example, Puerto Ricans and Hawaiians, how long it takes to brush their hair out in the mornings, right? They don't relate to that stuff unless they're part Popolo or whatever. But like, and they don't relate to the everybody gets together every birthday, wedding, funeral, Christmas, Thanksgiving. They don't relate to that because they don't do that in the mainland. They don't have that understanding. So
we celebrate all the time.
Well, and we celebrate it together because we're on an island. So
the same thing, like they don't understand about Independence Day. Like for us, that's just a day to come together to
that to go sideways and
party. But like I was just saying, but getting back to the whole bully thing, right? It stops bullies in their track or whatever. Because even with the issue with Jasmine, she did push the girl down, and the girl stopped picking on her after that, right?
Well, that teaches our kids to be self-sufficient and not cry about every little thing. Like, I'll share this one story, and I want to go back to talking about raising men, but one of the things with my I think I'll share this story. So, there's this one kid, and Shannon McKenzie. I just want to say I love you, brother. I know we were kids. I'm gonna share all these fights that I had, but we were fighting over a video game. We were playing, I think it was Nintendo football. It was something on Nintendo. And for some reason, I think it was either losing. I can't remember. I really can't remember. It was stupid. And we were fighting, and my friend Anthony Moore. Hello, Anthony Moore. If you ever see this, Anthony Moore was older. He had more money than us, so he went to his house to play video games because he had the like I said, and I joke about it, but we didn't have a lot of money to buy video games consoles. He had the newest video game consoles. We were playing the football, and I'm pretty sure I didn't lose, but we went outside and we went to go talk about it. And one thing led to another. We were pushing, and the next thing we were. Now, this I remember we were swinging, like we was doing like Mike Tyson. Cause I think part of our.
I'm Anthony Moore.
You might be, bro. But thanks to Facebook, I know who he is. But we're not live on Facebook. But Shannon McKenzie and we were duking it out, and I think we were punching like closed fist, with intention. I think part of it, we at that time we had enough TV. We understood what it meant to box, and we were just. I remember connecting. He was connecting. We didn't connect on a chin, but I remember on the head. Just you don't really know how to box. We're just going for the head and going for the chest, whatever. And I remember after we were done, I was in pain. He was in pain, and we just sat down on the sidewalk and we didn't say anything. We just sat there and then he walked away. And then the next day, we were still friends, but we didn't. We were never the same.
We always had
but we handled it.
We always had scraps all the time, right? But then, they ended up becoming friends after all the scraps happened.
I mean, we were still friends, but we weren't the same. I think part of it because we were prideful, but we handled it. That's how, I didn't go cry and say, "Mom, I want to go to therapy," or I didn't say, "Hey, let's call the cops, let's sue him," or I didn't go into the closet, go grab a gun and go shoot him.
You didn't even tell your parents. I mean, of course, when you're in school, all the rumors start flying around, right? They're gonna have one scrap over here, at 3 o'clock or whatever, and of course, the whole crowd coming because everybody see the scrap, and it usually happens. And then after that, they either walk away.
That was the entertainment of the day.
When you're in elementary, they become friends later on, or when you're in high school, of course, they get sent to the office or whatever. But
nowadays, kids can't handle, right? So rather than fight in the courtyard or in the park after school, they go fight online.
I think part of that is the way that we grew up and maybe felt like our parents were too harsh. And so when we end up having kids, that we don't
want them to have the pain. What is that? What do you mean?
We baby them more because we felt like we needed certain things. I know growing up, I never felt like I deserved all the lickings I got. But now that I got older, I was like, well, you know what? I used to do the exact same thing. I deserve the lickings that I had.
I'm over here. Don't look over there. I'm over here. We deserve that, honey. Not all of it. I think
to the extent of I deserve lickings, but not to the extent of abuse.
Yeah, yours was abuse, but I don't think I deserve to get slapped in the face multiple times, and my dad telling me to don't talk back. And then
he came out to be good people, so
For the record, I love my dad, but yeah, I don't think I deserve to get slapped in the face multiple times. And then he asked me a question, and then when I answer the question, he says, "Don't talk back." I don't think I deserve that. But in his defense, none of that would have been made possible if I had just shut my mouth. If I just shut my mouth, I'd be okay. Yeah.
The funny thing is, so even with our boys, I wouldn't, my dad used to put boxing gloves on us and have this boxing match in the middle of our front yard. I wouldn't do that. To our boys to solve their issues and stuff. I rather them,
Although I think it might be, they have gotten to a few fist fights since we've been here, and that's when they both come in crying. Yeah.
Part of it is, I think Cole is more soft-hearted and he doesn't want to hurt him because he's, Gideon's little younger than him, but he wants to be that older brother that takes care of the younger brother, and that's just his personality. But he know that he can. He know he can.
Okay, let's fun of this.
Handle.
So, what does it take to be a man? Like, what does it take to be a real man?
Is teaching our boys how to, to rightly.
And I think teaching our sons that it's okay to lose, not be a loser, but it's okay to lose from time to time because you can't win everything.
Well, and that's what I was talking about. And when I was talking about as far as weaknesses and stuff, it's you are always focusing on the positive things, but you're not ignoring the parts of the weaknesses, right? But you encourage them to get better at those things. As far as my role as a mom, to raise men that are accountable, that are responsible, that are righteous,
And that they treat women right.
Mhm.
Right, with
and
respect.
that comes from seeing the father treat their mother with respect, right? It's not just saying
with adoration and love and compliments.
It's not just saying those things, right? It's doing, because children will never do as you say. They can do as you do.
Okay, I'm gonna run some things by you. We'll fast forward. So one of the I wrote them down. The imagery of what a man is. If you look at popular culture, gotta be fit, gotta have big muscles, gotta eat healthy, you gotta have the huge bank account, the house on the hill. You've gotta get the girl. You gotta travel the world, do all these things. You gotta have all these resumes. And there's a whole bunch. I don't know where I put it, but one of the guys that preaches a lot of that is who's a controversial guy. He got locked up in his own place. What is his name? You used to listen to him all the time. He got a beard, takes off his shirt a lot. He swears a lot.
Oh, Andrew Tate.
Yes. So that is what I would consider a toxic version of what a man looks like. He's got some good principles but I don't know if that's a good model for raising up men.
Yeah, I think as a woman, well,
would you want a guy like that as your husband?
No.
Exactly.
I mean, that wasn't my when I prayed for a husband, that's like all the material things can always be replaced, and if you put material things
and taken away,
well, if you put material things before you, and when it gets taken away, what do you have? What do you have left? And you can't build off of material things, right? And love is not just a word. So when you read the word of God, right, it talks about there's 4 different types of love, right? But love is more than just a feeling. Because if you just feel like you're in love, every time you feel like you're not in love, then you're going to get one divorce, right?
Yeah.
It's more than that, right? It's
what's the 4th one? I have agape, phileo, eros, and
agape.
Because those are Greek words, actually. Yeah. So
agape is unconditional.
Phileo is brotherly.
Phileo is
Eros
brotherly.
is for love,
Eros
erotic.
is love, and then there's a friendship love. That is.
I'll go look it up while you're talking.
Okay, but anyway, that's the kind of love that should be within a marriage. The thing about marriage, and because that leads to how your children see you and how your children see your marriage is it's a comfortable place for them, whether it's built off of fear or whether it's built off of strengths, right? Whether it's what they see is normalized to them, and that's the kind of relationships that they get into. And for me, one of the biggest things was relying on God, because I knew that, I had toxic relationships and they just wasn't good for me. And if I continued down that road, I wouldn't have been living today. I really believe that. Um, but it's wanting something better and wanting something different than what I saw growing up. And one of the biggest things for me was communication, to communicate. And, when you're building healthy men, right? Because you're you have kids and you're building healthy men. One of the things is to sit down and have a conversation with them.
That's tough. Come on, men, husbands.
Yeah,
That's tough for a lot of people. For me, it's not easy.
but sitting down and talking with your boys, right? So I sit and I always have conversation with our boys, because I always think conversation is always important. In the same way, I always have conversations with my daughters, because I want them to, always be in a place of um, that it's okay to talk to me. So I always make this statement like, I don't care what you have to say. It's not going to hurt my feelings. I may have hurt feelings for a little bit, but I rather you tell me the truth than for you to lie, because I cannot read your brain. I don't know what's going on up in your head. And we need to resolve some of these issues, or resolve how you're feeling. Especially my youngest son, we always have to sit and have a conversation with him, because of some of the issues that he has, and we don't want him to self-harm, right? Self-harm himself, especially with the issues that he has. They have a tendency to go and hide and harm themselves. So we always make sure that there's a point where we always sit and have conversations. Sometimes it's sometimes he doesn't want to say something because he doesn't want to hurt our feelings, or he's so upset. And sometimes he says stuff because he's so upset, and it can be upsetting. I mean, it can hurt your feelings, but that's how he feels in those moments, and you got to take it as it comes, right? And sometimes it makes you think and readjust. I think a lot of times as humans, we don't want to face the reality of I got shortcomings or I got weaknesses, and then we always want to turn around and either blame or get aggravated and get angry and get mad, and all these things. So for me, like, one of the biggest things was communication in a relationship. And I think, really, as a wife, in raising sons and then having a husband, is allowing them to be raw and not picking on their weaknesses, or not threatening to leave, or because we are the helpmate of our husband. So our role should be to help our husband become better, in the same way the husband should love their wives and make them feel secure, that when the wife is raw before the husband, that the husband makes the wife also feel secure. So it's like, a give and take kind of a thing. And raising men, raising boys to be men, there's places where we should show our vulnerability to our children, so that they understand how to deal with issues. A lot of times we don't want to show our kids the ugly side of relationships. Now, I'm not saying like you're screaming and shouting and making your kids afraid. Now, that's a totally different thing. Like, that's not something that should be happening either. But then you should also have the ability to come and say, I'm sorry, right? And apologize. And I think for me, one of the hardest things was always apology. And apology was a hard thing for me, because nobody ever apologized to me for beating the crap out of me, or or neglecting us, or there was no apology for anything. So if you learn how to have a toxic relationship because you came from a toxic home, and that's the only thing that you know, then those behaviors got to change. And I'm going to say this boldly and clearly, that without Jesus, there's nothing in my life that would ever change. And if the change has come, it would be small changes, and it would have taken me forever to get where I needed to be. But that's even being raw and vulnerable as well. And if I didn't have a good husband, then that would be hard for me to be raw and vulnerable, because some of those things are just hard to deal with. So when you raise a man right, and you raise a good man, they can be that for their spouse. Look. It's on the. Did you see it?
Was it a spider?
Yeah. Watch your fingers. That's where it's at. Sorry.
She doesn't like spiders. He's probably just looking for a meal. But okay, so going back to the man, obviously for us serving the Lord, right, having a godly foundation. Some things I wrote down is I think pinpointing in culture, what are some of the things that are being focused on that are not of, I'm going to use the word generational importance, right? So some of the things are possessions. We talked about that. A lot of guys just want to live their life,
or
right?
even the appearance of things. So, you can look good, right? Dress right, have good facial hair, put your hair back, wear nice clothes. But does your personality match what you're throwing out there, right? It's easy to have somebody that looks good, they're handsome. Yeah, that's great.
That's why I not cringe, but I do feel red flaggy, if that's the word, when you see couples on social media and all they post up is the most beautiful stuff, and they show how happy they are, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that we need that. But then when you see, I'll give a good example for a man that has a very attractive wife, and they're both attractive, look good, but then when they dress a certain way on either side, that causes people to look at them in a lustful manner. Mm-hmm. To me, there's issue in that. I see that as a husband, as a man, I don't want to have a wife where I can parade out and throw out there like, she's something to look at. That's mine. That's for me, right? And I think that there's part of the culture, and in that when it comes to men, I think we treat certain things like possessions. It's not just things; it can be people too. And I look back at my life, I think a lot of the relational things that I went through were not, and I say this with all respect, but I think some of the relationships that maybe I've been through and maybe men go through today, and this is a word that's very troubling, is the word body count. You heard that word body count? So that's become a term that's acceptable in the bachelor space or the bachelorette space. Like, what's like, I would never have thought that growing up. Like, what's your body count? Like, what?
That's gross.
Well, it's gross.
Growing up, that
was
gross.
For you and I, that's gross. But I'm saying in culture today, that's acceptable. Yeah. Like, this is a sense of measurement of what a man is or a woman is. If you've got a high body count, I know, our opinion aside, from a culture standpoint, they look at it like, oh wow, you've got a good body count, or that's wow. Now, I'm not saying everybody, but it's a measurement.
Right. So even growing up, so
we had words for those people growing up.
I knew, right. We had words for those people,
and it wasn't nice.
Up. And it wasn't nice. And I know several people who were like that. And, not only did we have names for that, but we understood what happens when you have body counts like that. It's not that, yay, I can just sleep with anybody that I want, but yay, that comes with diseases as well. And that was a big thing. Even back then, you remember there was an epidemic in Africa. You remember that HIV? No, that became. I think it was in the 80s, maybe
It was in the 80s, and
80s.
a lot of that came through promiscuity, right?
Yeah.
So,
So that was a big thing for us. Even where I was from.
so a modern day version of that, and I watched it, is in Afghanistan. Modern day version of that, where there's a lot of that going around, and it's stemming from the men, where it's acceptable for them to be like that, where that's kind of not, it's kind of like I'm gonna say trophies, and it's not a good word, but we talk about the boys, where they basically enslave little boys and parade them around like it's their possession, like I've got this much. And I think culture, that's where we've come. Now, I'm not saying, now there's another push, and I'll throw his name out there, Russell Brand. He brought up a really powerful thing, and this is where I believe our personal worldview is dependent on where we are, where we live, not physically, but like spiritually, biblically, scripturally, philosophically, whatever words people use. Because Russell Brand's outlook is a lot different than someone else, like in terms of, like, one of the things he says is that there's a stirring up of people wanting to get to know Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. That he says that a lot, and I agree with him. Right now, you go talk to, let's say, you talk to someone that's in a Kamala Harris camp, for example, they may look at it differently. Or so, but anyways, going back to the whole culture of what it is to be a man, I think there is a push for righteousness, especially with what's happening with us politically.
Well, I think too, that parents need to identify their sons. They need to identify, we're talking about men, so I'm going to talk about sons, that parents need to identify their sons, both mother and father, and teach them what it is to be
a son,
righteous, and what it is to be a son. Again, I had another conversation the other day, and the conversation was about a 3-4-year-old asking about their sexuality, and asking questions because they had a sibling, that boy asking questions about the sibling girl, and body parts and all that stuff. And they didn't know how to address the sister-in-law, because the sister-in-law had asked her questions, and she just kind of yelled at the son, like, why, never mind, just get away, stuff like that. I said, well, that's kind of harsh to answer somebody like that, but if you have kids, say you have kids, you don't know how to answer, here you go, from a medical standpoint as well. Okay, when you're addressing issues, you address them not at the adult level, you address the issue at the level of age that they are. So if they're 4 years old and this is a boy and asking about, his sexuality, sister's sexuality, body parts, okay, concerning body parts.
At that age, it's not even sexuality.
No, it's just curiousness. Yeah. Like, how come I look different? That was the thing. How come I look different? Aren't we all boys? How come I look different? Then it's, how come I look different?
Are you pointing to the spider?
Yeah.
Where is it? Oh.
How come I look different than she does? Don't we all have the same thing? And I said, well, to answer in that kind of manner, and if you're constantly answering them in that way, just because they're curious, what you're doing is subliminally, this is what you're doing. You're telling them their sexuality is not that important. Sometimes we make them feel ashamed of who they are, rather than saying, this is what boys look like. This is what girls look like. That's the difference between us, and just leave it be, right? The older they get, you talk to them more about who they are, right? And a lot of times I feel like growing up, I learned about this stuff from school, which you shouldn't be, you shouldn't be learning this stuff from school. But talk to your kids about their sexuality, about who they are. Let them know that it's okay. If you're a man, right, you talk to your boys about all the stuff that happens when your hormone starts getting higher, when your testosterone level starts getting higher, talk to your boys about it. Hey, this is normal. This is what happens, right? Versus your son's trying to figure this stuff out, or your daughter's trying to figure this
They,
stuff
they
out.
should never navigate alone on those things on which we should guide them through. One of the things, Mom, how old was I? I don't know how old I was, but I remember taking showers with, and it wasn't weird. It's like I said, like at a young age, it's not about sexuality. It's about like, what is that, or what is this? Like, how come, and we're adults, but how come my little thing, it does this and then it goes that, right?
Right.
Just little things like that. And there was never touching ever. It was always just like, I still remember as a kid, I took showers with my mom. It's just not weird or gross in any way. It was just, as a kid, it was very, it was intriguing, and I learned. And I remember just looking at my mom. I'm like, I mean, I didn't make that face. I'm making it now as an adult, and I looked down, and okay, that's different. And then I didn't take a lot of showers with my dad. There was a few, and I just remember, I remember looking at it, and then okay, it's the same, but a little bit different. And that's how I knew that I was a boy, right?
Sometimes it's, can you shower them? Can you take a bath with them? Or, if you're taking a bath, can I just throw them in the shower with you? Like, because they mess
and
all
I
over.
never ever washed their private parts. I always showed them how I did mine, and then you do yours. And our daughters and our boys, we both taught them, hey, this, and then that's where we tell them, hey, I mean, as it got older, nobody,
Touches you here.
this belongs, nobody is, no, this is yours, this is your space, right? So that's how we taught them. And I think I don't know how parents, I really don't know, because, but when I hear things, I see things on media, I'm like, wait, what? You're actually having your kids go do these reaffirming things? Like, no.
So you have to normalize talking to your kids about their own sexuality.
I mean, I looked
You
at
have to be
Barbie dolls. I looked up the dresses and skirts as a kid. Like, that doesn't mean that I wanted to be one of those things. But just like, wow, this is different. And then, of course, through watching TV and media, now you get a different distorted view of what it.
Right.
Because as a kid, we all looked at toys, but the minute you get influenced by a certain type of media, now I look at skirts differently. I don't look at it as, oh, that's like a that's like an undergarment or a panty and a skirt. As a kid, you look at, oh, that's a panty. Now, when you get influenced by distorted things, now you look at, oh, that's a girl's private parts, and that's how I get there. That's two totally different things, right? And I think, and having that today, like, if you have a kid that always plays with Barbie dolls, the first thing, you don't go like, oh, he's gay, or he must be gay, or he wants to be one of, no. Like, if he says, I want to wear a dress, that means nothing, except that maybe you should tell him, no, we don't wear dresses.
Right.
You don't say, oh, I'm so proud of you, let's go talk to the
Yeah.
psychologist and see what we can do for, no. No. Like, no, be a parent, and you teach them.
That they are okay. You're okay with who you are.
Now, if you're a parent that's what you believe and you did, then that's obviously where the issue is in that respect. But going off that side one, but talking about this push that I talked about earlier before you got on, was this idea of in a political governmental realm. I don't know if you notice, we have a barrage of men coming in to lead our country. None of them have. There's no doubt that the men that are going to be taking positions, or the women that are going to be taking positions, there's no mistake of who they are. You know that Tulsi Gabbard is a woman. You don't question, is she a dude, right? We all know JD Vance is a guy. Do we need to take a break and vacuum? Is he still there?
I don't know. He's not by me, so I'm okay. I just, sometimes I just see it moving.
So, and the perfect example, we'll leave Trump out of it because we can pick on him and people can pick on him. But look at Bobby Kennedy. He has never said anything bad about anybody, really, I don't think. He did point fingers, obviously, but you look at the pictures of him with his shirt off. That dude is like buff, in good shape, not in a lustful way, not for like, oh my god, but you like, wow.
He could lead the Department of Health, or so could be a Secretary of Health. It's like I was saying, like putting on clothes, having a nice beard, having a nice hair, but you don't have the personality to go with that. It's almost like a false image. Like, okay, I'm good looking, da da da. But then you turn around, you get into a relationship, and you start beating up your girlfriend 2 months in. It's like, this is not what I signed up for. You're very different here compared to.
So going into the identity portion of it, I think we got to cover identity and where people are, and I've talked about, where how people identify with cultures that are not, and I don't mean it this way, but for people that identify with cultures that are not necessarily theirs, and they adopt it because for whatever, and it may sound like I'm picking on people, but I'm not. But like, I'm just using it as an example. Like, there's a lot of people talking about stoicism. You ever heard of that term? So
Stoic.
like stoic. So if I tell you what is a stoic,
I don't know. I only heard that term in referring to Vikings, and I don't
so
know where they come from. Like,
it's Greek. So Vikings are different. So Greek. So that's where they get it from, right? The Greek culture. And Greeks are great, I'm sure, right? But like even Viking culture, people identify with that. If that's where you're from, and that's totally fine. What's another one? Here's one. People that put on tattoos. What's the funniest type of tattoos you see on a white person, for example?
What's the funniest tattoo?
Culturally, we're talking about culture now, right? So when they identify with the culture, they put on certain types of tattoos. And you're like, oh, wait, but that's not who you are. But they put it on anyway.
Yes, falsehoods.
So like Chinese or Japanese, right?
Right, so...
or they'll put on Hawaiian tribals.
Yeah.
And that's fine if that's what you like. But my point is you identify with something that's not particularly
yours, or you don't understand why culturally it was like that.
And that's fine. But the whole point is like we... even as man and lady, what's up, both guys, but we're identifying with something that is not necessarily ours. But why? Why is stoics? Part of me,
they don't understand their identity. Is that?
I think that's part of it, right? And then the other thing is, I think, like, I didn't even hear about stoicism until Twitter. I really didn't.
Oh.
I mean, maybe I did. I just didn't care. Like, I don't even like. I guess if you say the word, it sounds cool, I guess.
I guess growing up, I always watched these. My dad used to watch all these war movies. So we used to watch a lot of Viking movies, and it was just bludgeoning. I mean, seriously. But that's where I heard it from. I didn't know it was Greek. I just...
No, Vikings and Greeks are two different countries.
Yeah, so like I said, that's where I heard it from.
Oh, okay. So like I the Stoic refers to not a warring people, whereas Vikings, you automatically think of Viking as like a warring nation type of people, where Stoics are philosophers, and that's why I'm saying, like, even I didn't know.
No, well, that's where I heard the word from, Stoic.
So Stoics is like...
I didn't know that. I thought it was identified as like a warring, like a way that you stand.
So let me look it up. So I know that. So my whole point is like people will say, "Oh, are you a Stoic?" Right? I like following Stoicism. Right?
What does that mean?
I'll look it up. So I know generally. So I don't think people that say they're Stoic really know what it means. I think so. A Stoic, it's a person that can endure pain or hardship without showing their feelings or complaining.
Okay, so that's like Vikings.
But the root word is it's from
Greek.
It's out of philosophy, I believe from Greek. Yeah, so...
Well, that's interesting.
So I think when they find these words and these types of thinking, people identify with that because whether the word sounds cool or it's different. Like, well, to me, what is it going to be 20 years from now? there's groups of people that identify with yoga, for example, right? They're like, oh, I am a X level, I'm a Bikram yoga practitioner or whatever. Or
Yeah.
so what I'm saying is that people are identifying, and I'll pick on this one.
So I get what you're saying. So let me say about yoga. So yoga is a practice like how you were saying that people starting to identify with yoga because they like it, it's a cool thing or whatever. But if you go back, I think yoga is rooted in Hinduism. I think it's Hinduism. But if you go and you look it up, they're upset at the fact that they made it a popular thing, like as far as exercising, when it's actually rooted in the religion that it comes from. So they don't like people like just taking the word and let's just run with this thing. I didn't know that. You know, you gotta go and look it up.
I look at it
But
right
it's
now.
interesting. And the same way with being stoic or
Yeah,
stoicism.
so Hindu spiritual discipline, breath control, meditation. We obviously we've definitely changed it,
Yeah,
but it's the same thing with
stoicism.
it's the same thing when people get tattoos of Chinese words, and the Chinese words say joy or strength or peace, right? And one of the jokes is the Chinese people say, "Well, what if I got an English tattoo that said joy, peace, strength?" So I think people are attaching themselves to things. Another one is like Japanese culture, right? There's not actually a lot of people that identify with Yakuza or right, but they'll identify with other things, right? One of them now on Twitter is this Ronin culture. Are you looking at the spider?
No.
So identifying with Ronin culture or that type of culture, even in Hawaiian culture, there's a lot of people that identify with certain types of Hawaiian culture. No, one of the best examples I'll use this. Now this is a positive. Is Mark? You remember Marky J?
Yeah.
So are you
No, I'm moving my
Oh.
wire.
because I get ready to pause and put the video on so we can go kill the spider. So Marky J is a good example where I saw videos of him dancing hula. He plays ukulele. He sings. He loves the Hawaiian culture. He's not even Hawaiian, but he could pass for a Hawaiian mix.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good.
and he honors it and respects it. Now that's not who he is. He just enjoys participating in that. So I think when we're talking about like people that identify with certain things, I don't think those things are lasting. I think they're passing. Like stoicism, for example, guys that attach to that. Like for me, if you're I don't know, if you're Hawaiian, identify with your Hawaiian and like
There's a thing spiritually, because that is who you are as a people. There are things that you carry as a people that are good things, and you go look up your culture, where you come from, you know just like our motto for Hawaii is Ua mau ke ea o ka aina I ka pono, and that means the life of the land is perpetuated in righteousness. And there's something deep spiritually when you are connected to who you are as a people. When you are connected, there is an understanding, an innate understanding that's within you, that you understand that, hey, we are rooted in righteousness, right? What are the righteous things that you are rooted in? Like haole people, or there's one thing that I see, they fought a battle and they fight, many battles. One thing about haole people is when they have a fight, they'll stand up, and they won't back down. That's something good that comes from who they are as a people. Like, know who you are as a people. Identify who you are and bring to light all the good things that they are your strengths as who you are, and be okay with who you are. Like I know people who like you were saying, like Marky J loves our culture and he respects it, and he'll play. It's great that he does that, but know your own culture, identify with that, and find the strengths that your culture brings to a people, to the land. A lot of people love coming to Hawaii because they just love who we are as a people. It's who we are. It's aloha is more than just a word, right? And as a people, you understand it's within you. You understand the difference between just saying the word aloha and giving out aloha, because you understand the true meaning. In Hawaiian, our words are not just words. They carry weight, and they are something that you personify, something that you give out, right? So in every culture, there's something that you give out as a people, and bring that to the earth, bring that to the people, because people need to know and have what you have. You need to share those things with people. Who are you as a people? Bring that out. Share the good things that you got. There's strengths in you. Like I love people. I love Black people. I love the way that they sing. Yeah, the Popolo people, they have this way of singing that is like, it's powerful. They can sing a cappella. They sing very well. Their voice carries weight. That's something that's always been within them. You go and you look at these African countries and all this stuff, music just surrounds them as well. Identify with who you are, and not trying to push those things away from you. Not everything is bad. Every culture has something that's bad, right? Every culture is something that's idolatrous. Bring the good things out in the same way. Identify your sons, identify the good things that they bring to the table, but also let them know who they are culturally, so that they can identify with, hey, we are a righteous people. This is what our people did, and this is who you are as a people. Like our sons, I always make it known who they are, as far as their Hawaiian names are as far as their Hawaiian names are concerned. Hey, this is what your name means, and this is who you are, right? My youngest son, his name is Ali'ikoa, and Ali'ikoa means a commander of an army. And so I identify that in him. I say, remember, your name is Ali'ikoa. You are a commander of an army. That's who God has called you to be. So let's raise up that leadership in you. Like, you got it in you, right? It's easy to identify all the negative things, but I want to identify the positive things that would build his strengths up, that would teach him who he is, right? Everybody makes mistakes. We're constantly making mistakes all the time, but I don't want to identify those mistakes. Like, I get it. These parts are weaknesses, but we're going to make them stronger, and not allowing them to stay there or live in that place, right? Let's move forward, and teaching to move forward as well.
It's teaching them to be generational. I think that's one of the things that's missing from our culture, in terms of not just man, but we are talking about man today. What does it take to be a real man? But generational thinking, generational living. Just the idea that what I do today may actually affect tomorrow. Not just for me, but for my bloodline, my family. Elon Musk has a great approach to this. I don't obviously agree with everything, but talks about how population decline, population collapse is what he talks about. That we are on a verge of a population collapse. And everybody makes fun of him. But I'm thinking, okay, so they make fun of him in that, but in everything else they praise him. You would think that someone that has that much of vision, and I'm pretty sure he's a high IQ person. That doesn't guarantee he knows everything, but I do believe what he said. And some of the things he cited was the diapers, right? So when he looks at numbers of adult diaper sales, how it's eclipsing baby diaper sales. you have a problem. Now you've got a generation of adults that are going to be in diapers, and they're going to have to be taken care of, and you've got a younger generation that's shrinking. There will be nobody here to take it. And once that generation dies off, now you've got a serious problem in an area of population, not just decline, but like who's left. And if we are at that place where everybody's swallowing this woke mind virus, for example, we use as an example, we're starting at a very low place. So, teaching our kids to be generational in their mindset, generational in living. And I don't know if guys have that today, because I have some names. I'll get your input on it. Okay, Russell Brand, we talked about him. Would you consider Joe Rogan as someone who has a generational mindset? Good or bad?
I'm not sure.
Okay, Trump, obviously, yes, he does. John Benefield, of course.
Yes.
Chris Mitchell,
Yes.
of course. Of course, my dad, of course. Both of my grandpas, of course. Your grandpas, yeah.
Well, I would say they were. I mean, I didn't know them, so.
My uncle Adrian, of course. All of your uncles. William Hippa, we'll talk about him. William Hippa is a public person, so I'm sure he won't mind, but he's on TikTok, not on these platforms, but he's a live streamer on TikTok. I say live streamer because he's got a huge following on TikTok. But going through his relationship, divorce and all that, and to, say to God, I just want to focus on you and raise my sons. I thought that was the most amazing. That's one of the most amazing testimonies for a guy to go through divorce, say to God, I just want to focus on you, but help me to raise my sons. I don't want to do anything else but raise my sons. And God honored that. And then when the sons were old enough, God blessed him with another wife.
So here is some of the things, like for people like me who didn't have like most greatest upbringing, right? You got men who've been in jail, you got men who did other things, you got men who weren't raised by men, you got men who came from the kind of houses that we come from, and what do we say to them? Number one is help, allow the Lord to help you, ask the Lord for help to help you raise your sons. Number two, you don't have to raise them the same way that you were raised. And it's a learning curve. I mean, let me tell you, it was a learning curve for me. But learning, even through the mistakes that you've made or make, one of the things that I've learned, and that was a hard thing for me to learn, is to apologize. And, that's pride, I think, if you cannot apologize. Apologize for, if your kids are having a hard time right now, if you had have a hard time with your kids, hey, one thing you can do is just sit down with your boys and say, you know what, I'm sorry for messing up. I'm sorry, I didn't know how to do things better. Let's work together and, get some things done. How do you begin? I don't know. Take them out, go do something. It doesn't have to be anything big. My boys, they love spending time with their dad, and it don't matter what they're doing. They can go rock climbing, they can go look for rocks, they can go hiking, bike ride, or play a basketball game. Even if you don't know how to play basketball, go play it together, do something together, to raise your boys, and change one thing, do something different, right? Let's cultivate something different that will make an impact in them, that would shift even their focus, right? We need to get back to raising our kids and not allowing the school or
the system or the machine
system to raise your kids. If you don't have enough time and you're a single parent, Lord, make a way for me to have enough time to do at least one thing with them, and do it. Like, doesn't have to be every single day. It can be one thing for the week, can be the 2 days that you have day off. Make a movie night where you just sit down and watch movies, or you can make a game night where if you like playing board games, say do that, or your kids like playing basketball or riding bike or whatever, let them show you their tricks, even though it seems kind of corny. Just let them do that, or participate in something that they like. Even though I may not like see, I mean, I would sit down with my girls and play Barbie dolls. Nobody ever sat down with me and play Barbie dolls. um just to get that, not just to get the interaction, but building the relationship between you and your children, and then building that influence as well. And if you're learning together, you're learning together, right? It's not about the mistakes. It's not about the weaknesses, right? We're learning to build strengths within us. If you play an instrument, teach your kid how to play the instrument, right? So just anything to do with something like that. I want to say that the hardest thing for me was talking to my daughter. Nobody ever talked to me, so talking to my daughters, my oldest one, because she's old now. She's of age now, but learning to talk, like, how do I reach out to my teenager? Okay, well, let's go to McDonald's and eat. And that was, for me, that was the easiest way for me to reach out. We began doing this. We'll go and sit down at McDonald's and eat French fries and what do you call that, ice cream cones. French fries with ice cream is the bomb.
No,
Just gotta
it's
try
not.
it. Anyway,
It's gross.
that's how I started talking with my daughter. Like, figure out something to talk to your sons about. Your sons will become the leaders of tomorrow, right? Whether they're leading their home, or they're leading the nation, or they're leading something, they're gonna lead something. Let's teach them how to lead well by making just small changes and adjustments. And then from there, we don't want to make like big drastic changes, and then it gets out of hand and we feel overwhelmed, especially coming from not having a healthy home that you grew up in, but you're creating a healthy home. So start with something small.
Well, do what is necessary to teach our boys to become men. And going back to because we're talking about, I don't want to spend too much time on parenting, but our boys, and let me just cover these two things and we can land a plane. So being a provider and a protector, I think those things are, when it comes to what it takes to be a real man, is like the provider and protector part, right? Like, that's something that's missing. Most guys today will provide for themselves. And if you want to join me on my journey of success and being a great man, then you can come along. That's kind of the mindset. I think that being a protector kind of speaks for itself. I think right now we don't even know what a man is. So, like, you protect yourself. I don't know what, right? Like, what does it mean to be a protector and a provider in today's culture, right? Well, what does that really look like? Now, scripturally speaking, that is our calling. Is we are called to protect and provide for our families. And so, you talked about communication in the very beginning, but in today's culture, what does that actually look like to be a provider? There's so many different definitions, right? On guys, I think just, what was that sound? Is that like a spaceship? That was your stomach? Wow, I can hear that. Okay, we better end
It's like
this.
Pac-Man.
What the heck? We got a spider over here, and I got my wife's Star Wars stomach battles, and then I'm getting hungry too. So I want to make sure we cover that. Obviously the possessions are, those things come and go. The identity. I think to steer this into the direction I want to lead this into is, because the title is, what is it to be a real man? I do believe, obviously, you've got to serve the Lord first and foremost. And for people that are not serving God, too bad, so sad. So I'm just kidding. But I do think that you have to have that grounding. You have to, if you don't, it's going to be a struggle, right? So I don't know what else to add to that, because I wrote it down. But being a provider and protector, I will encourage. This is what I'll do. I'll encourage the men that are watching that if you want the best lifelong companion, ask God to teach you what it means to be generational. Ask God to teach you what it means to to provide and how he can open doors for you to provide and also to be a protector. I mean, that's more of a personal thing. Like you got to make a decision. Like, hey, no, I'm the first line of defense for my family, right? The other things you talked about, communication, that's more of a personal growth thing. Being willing to communicate and to listen, actually, to listen. Yeah. So I think that's a good landing. That's a good
It's a challenge. It's not impossible, but
well, it not only is it possible, it's you got to be willing to communicate, because if not, it's just not going to work, and you're not going to be. I keep wanting to do the Pinocchio. I'm a real boy, but real men communicate. I think real men are willing to communicate. One of the toughest things about communication is being willing to listen. And one of the things John Maxwell, I have his book, but is being willing to listen even when you're talking. That's tough, because when we're talking, we want to make a point. I think that's what makes people like Donald Trump so good. If you watch him in podcasts, he'll talk, but
he's listening.
he's listening. And we're not praising just Trump, but there's a lot of Joe Rogan. He talks a lot, but he listens a lot too. Outside of his language, but he listens a lot. And if he really listens to a lot of us, he rarely will listen just so he can talk. That's extremely rare. That's a good quality to have for someone who listens to listen and not listen so they can come back and say something.
Like, what is that quote that Earl Shove said?
Who I am is so. I'll look it up. That's a good place to end it. Yeah, let me go look it up, because who I am speaks so loudly I cannot hear what you say, and who you are speaks so loud I cannot hear what you say. I had it memorized too. Who I am speaks so loudly I cannot hear what you say, and who you are speaks so loudly I cannot
Hear what you
hear
say.
what you say. And that's the gist of the quote. It really talks about people, not just in conversation, but creating things, like it's in business, right? So that's a good quote. I'm gonna look it up. So I don't, but that's the basics of it. John Earl.
That quote stuck with me.
Who I am speaks so loud I can't hear what you. That was the basis of. Cool.
The other quote by Jim Rohn is another quote that spoke loudly to me too. And Jim Rohn's quote was, "Don't wish it to go away. Wish you were better."
And don't wish for less problems. Just wish you were beyond. Wish you were better.
Mm-hmm.
He has a lot of great quotes. Let me look it up. I can find it.
Jim Rohn or Earl Shove?
John Earl Shove. Jim Rohn will always attribute to John Earl Shove. He always.
Who I am speaks so loudly I cannot hear what you say. Who you are
Speak so loudly, I
so
cannot hear what you
loudly.
say.
I cannot hear what you say. Are you listening? This thing. Are you listening?
Oh, this is good. I got it. I think I got it. This is. I have his PDF. Let me look it up. Oh, this is good. I'm glad I found it. He talks a lot about visualizing. Okay, give me a second. I'll find it. You can fill up the time while I'm skimming through it.
Okay.
You can close this out, and then I'll read this as we close out. Word of encouragement, scripture, if you want to drop that.
Yeah, my encouragement is, I encourage you to develop your strengths, whatever you are, have strength in. I encourage you to focus on developing that. And here's my scripture for today. It's First Thessalonians 5:18. In everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. The will of God in Christ Jesus for you is in everything give thanks. Being thankful, I'm thankful for my husband. I'm thankful for my sons. I'm thankful for you being here listening to us. When you can be anything, you can be doing anything else in the world, but here you are. So I am thankful for you guys being here. But I encourage you to develop your strengths. And I'm going to give you one of my business quotes here. One of my business quotes here is we should not devote overly much effort to correct our weaknesses. We should focus on building our strengths, because the deepest emotional satisfaction comes from building and using our signature strengths. And our signature strengths, what that means is who you are, right? Everybody has unique value. You bring unique value to this world. You bring unique values to your family. You bring unique values to those around you. So let's build and focus on building our strengths versus trying to correct the weaknesses that we have. And I find that a lot of times that when we are building our strengths, our strengths are like this going up, and here is our weaknesses. Our weaknesses are building strength, and they both somewhat come up together, right? So I encourage you to focus on building your strengths, build your bonds with your sons, parent your children, speak to their strengths, and watch some of these things change. But I also encourage you to give thanks in all things. In all things.
Okay, here we go. John Earl Show. This is where did I put it? I lost it. Hold on. Lost it. Okay, here we go. There's a whole transcript. I'm glad I found it. This is back in the 50s, probably. He says, "What I am speaks so loudly, I can't hear what you say. And what you are speaks so loudly, I cannot hear what you say." So everything you say is a thing that you've created. So be careful what you create. And that was in reference to a business meeting he was in. And I think for us as men, if you're trying to figure out, or women, if you maybe, well, let's be clear, it's men and women. It does matter. But being at a position to, like for us, is being at a position to where we're willing to hear from the Lord, first of all, but also do what he asks of us. What the heck, Gregory? But being a willing vessel. And what John O'Shaw said about it's powerful because who we are speaks louder than the words that come out of our mouth. Who we are speaks louder than what we put on social media. And at some point, who we really are will come out on social media at some point. Or anything in conversation. So I think that's a good landing spot, I think. We hope you guys enjoyed this. We just do these every day just to hang out, talk stories, share our heart. You're watching gLO Sessions live. And we try to see if these are good enough to put on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I'll go back and maybe pick one from this week or in the past week, and we'll put it up on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. On behalf of my wife and myself, my name is Brother Greg, aka Rogila, my wife Emily, with the big smile. Be sure to click on the like, share, and subscribe button if you're on YouTube, Twitch, Kick, or Rumble. We appreciate that. And on behalf of my wife and myself, thank you for your time, your heart, super heart, your data. data, all the good stuff. I don't know why I said that. What the heck? Data. We love you guys. God bless you guys. Ahui ho, aloha, and mahalo. Yes, sir. Chihu. Today's episode is brought to you by One Shot Energy Voice Drops. They are a low-sugar yuzu honey lozenge that soothes and protects your throat and voice with an infusion of slippery elm, marshmallow, and licorice root. Whether you are a full-time gamer, public speaker, pastor, preacher, teacher, maybe you like doing podcasting, you got to get your hands on these voice drops by oneshotenergy.com. Be sure to use my promo code AMBGLO for 10% off your entire order. oneshotenergy.com. Want to announce our new merch is up. If you go to therealglo.com, click on merchandise, it'll take you to our storefront, which has our last run of our t-shirts for the fall season. It's Stay Humble and Shaka, Blessed Beyond Measure, Ezekiel 37 shirts, Yesu, which is native Hawaiian for Jesus. And we also have our beanies, coffee cups. Get your hands on it while it lasts, because we're going to be running our winter apparel. TheRealGLO.com. Click on merchandise. And as I always say, mahalo for your support.
To whoever may need this nugget of encouragement, things will be alright, so quit your worrying. I get it, the odds can stack back against the wall, but even consider it such, know you'll stand firm.